Welcome to Thorns and Thistles Farm. This video I'll take you through the process of using shanks and other less desirable cuts of venison, as well as kitchen scraps, and turn them into awesome flavorful dishes like ramen. We begin by separating the solids from the liquid. The next step is to scrape off the fat layer off of our stock once it's been chilled. We then warm it up and then we'll strain it. Then we'll load it up into our canning jars and then get our pressure canner ready. This has to be canned in a pressure canner, not a water bath. Once the canner is loaded, pressure can for the appropriate time and pressure based on your location. For me, it was 10 psi for 24 minutes, and then a natural release. Remove the lid and the jars carefully and let them chill on your counter. You should hear little pings as the jars seal. Now on to the ramen. For this dish, we are going to be using chicken of the woods, fresh venison, carrots, cabbage, soft-boiled eggs, radish, kimchi, chili crunch, fish sauce, green red pepper, sesame seeds, and green onions for garnish. We start by soft-boiling our eggs, and once they have cooked to the right temperature, then we are going to place them in our ice bath to chill while we get the rest of our ingredients ready. And then we're going to start prepping our veggies. So we start with the cabbage. This is Chinese cabbage or a Napa cabbage. And I start out by quartering it, and then I will take the cores out. And then we'll basically shred it. If you had a food processor, that would work well too for this process if you wanted to speed things up. But I just figured instead of making more dishes, let's just do it with the knife. So that's what I do here. And again, if you don't have some of these ingredients, this recipe is super flexible. A lot of this stuff is what I had on hand or had already prepared, like the kimchi and the chili crunch. I had those things kind of already in my garden. So you can X things out, or you can add things if you wanted to. Next we're doing the carrots. So I wanted them to be like julienne. So I have this little mandolin here. And this works good to get like the even slices, and then I'll take them out and just continue chopping them into like little sticks, just to give it some extra texture and stuff like that. So you don't need the mandolin, but I get a little picky on that, and that's what I use for the radishes. Now these radishes were actually from last year's harvest in our garden, and they have been frozen, so they're a little mushy. The texture is not the greatest, but like they still have a great flavor. And these are a mixture of French breakfast and the daikon style radishes. So next on to the venison. This is from a backstrap, and it's still a little frozen, which is really nice when you want to cut really thin strips of meat. And then same with chicken of the woods. This has been in the fridge for a while, and this was preserved by just freezing it. I didn't have time to really dry it out or anything, and so it's a little mushy as well. So here's another recap of the ingredients. We're getting our stock ready. We're going to heat it up to a boil, just adding a little bit more water to it just to give it some more volume. I don't salt my stock because then that's something that we can just kind of add with ingredients. And so for the broth part, just some fish sauce, red pepper. I think I'm gonna add some soy sauce too. The soy kind of adds the salt. The fish sauce gives it a little bit of umami kind of flavor, a little depth. So if you're kind of wondering how much you should add, kind of always be tasting it and see if it needs a little bit more salt. You go with a little bit more soy or even just salt. If it needs a little bit more depth, and that's why I'm coming back here and adding a little bit more of the fish sauce. And then I also add, I think, a little bit more of the red pepper. You kind of have to be careful with that because as it sits, it will get pretty spicy. So for this, I'm just getting the stock seasoned, and I'll set aside and let it simmer, give it a little stir. This may seem like a lot of ingredients and steps, but once you get everything kind of prepped, it goes really fast. We made this the other night for leftovers, and it took us about 5 minutes. So now I'm getting a cast iron pan ready. I'm gonna cook some of the venison in the mushrooms. We're gonna start here with the mushrooms. Now these had like a lot of liquid. I'm just getting the temperature right. So I did a mixture of pork fat and also some olive oil spray, just for smoke levels. And then here I'm adding the chicken of the woods. And because these were frozen, there's gonna be a lot of moisture in there. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite way of preserving these mushrooms, but these actually turned out really well. So I just seasoned with some salt and pepper, and add a little bit of the chili crunch that I had made earlier, and just kind of spoon some over it. Just watching the temp. Just a lot of that bubbling you're seeing is moisture coming out of the mushrooms. So these are a really awesome mushroom to use. Some people like them, some don't, but they have a little bit of a chicken type flavor, and they're also a little bit like a chicken texture as well. So you can see the color on the mushrooms there look really good. So now I'm gonna move on to getting our meat ready. So I'm gonna leave a few pieces of the venison raw, and these I'm just lightly browning on one side. I don't want to cook them too much because I want them to remain tender, and the longer you cook them, the firmer they'll be. So now we're gonna move to plating. We got our noodles all cooked. These are ramen noodles you can get at your store in the box. We start with noodles and then broth. That's kind of important. And then I add our proteins, which is going to be the venison. I put some raw pieces in here because the broth will kind of cook it up to a medium rare. It did. I actually like the cooked pieces a little bit better, but it was still really good. So just plating with venison, and again, whatever ingredients you have. Yeah, you can X some of these out. You can add some of them if you want a little bit spicier. There's lots of options. So now we're going with cabbage. We're putting our carrots and our radish. Yeah, it's a really feels like a healthy dish. Again, it's something easy to do, just whatever you have on hand. Here's our soft-boiled eggs. So the yolk should be a little soft, and you can kind of see that it is. And that soft yolk actually adds a little creaminess to the broth, which is really, really good. And then just garnish with sesame seeds and some kimchi. And that should do it. This was a fun dish to make. I loved how it utilized scraps from the kitchen, maybe less desirable cuts from the deer that you're harvesting. It's super flexible. You can add or delete things, like I said, to it, and it's just it's got tons of flavor. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Look for more videos similar to this and following us along in our adventures here on Thorns and Thistles.